Hi, my name is Gary Bunn. I'm the CDL coordinator here at Nash Community College. We're located in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. I also do instruction for Sage truck driving schools located within Nash Community College. Today we're going to be performing a Class A CDL pre-trip inspection as outlined in the North Carolina CDL Driver's Manual. This is how you should be able to perform a pre-trip inspection when it comes time for you to test for your CDL A license. By reviewing this video, it should assist you in passing the CDL pre-trip. As I stated earlier, we will be conducting this pre-trip as outlined in the North Carolina CDL Driver's Manual. We will start by pre-tripping the front of the vehicle. We will then do the right side or passenger side of the engine compartment, the left side of the engine compartment, and then we will inspect all components down the left side of the vehicle and the rear of the vehicle. We will then do an outside operational light check of the vehicle, and then we will complete the pre-trip inspection by doing the inside cab portion of the pre-trip. As we approach the front of the vehicle, we want to check it to make sure we have no structural damage anywhere along the front of the vehicle. We want to make sure that the vehicle is sitting level, not leaning to one side or the other. If so, that could indicate a suspension problem, a tire problem, or improperly loaded cargo. We want to start at the top with our clearance lights, making sure our clearance lights are properly mounted and secure, not cracked or broken, clean and amber in color. Our windshield, properly mounted and secure, contains no cracks, chips, or illegal stickers. Our windshield wipers are properly mounted and secure, have the proper tension, and the blades are in great condition. We want to check our headlight and turn signal assemblies, making sure that they're both properly mounted and secure, clean, and our turn signals are amber in color. We want to check under the engine compartment to make sure we have no fluid leaks of any kind on the ground coming from the engine compartment. As we move to the right side or passenger side of the engine compartment, first off we're going to check our windshield washer fluid reservoir, making sure that we have plenty of fluid to make sure it works when we do a windshield washer operational check. We're going to check all of our hoses on the right side of our vehicle, starting with our air intake hoses, making sure that they're all properly mounted and secure, no broken or missing parts, clamps are tight, and no indications of any type of air leaks. We're going to be checking our exhaust hose or exhaust system running from our turbo all the way back to our stack or muffler, making sure that everything is properly mounted and secure, no broken or missing clamps, no indication of any type of leaks, and ensure that the exhaust system is touching no part of the fuel system anywhere. We would also check our upper and lower radiator hoses, making sure that they're both properly mounted and secure, no broken or missing parts, clamps are tight, no leaks. We would check our alternator, making sure that our alternator is properly mounted and secure with no broken or missing parts. Electrical connections are tight. Our alternator is belt driven, so we also would check our alternator belt, making sure it's properly mounted and secure, not worn, not frayed, has no more than 3/4 inches of free play. We would check our water pump located down below our alternator, making sure our water pump is properly mounted and secure, no broken or missing parts, also has no leaks, and the water pump is also belt driven, so we would check the water pump belt, making sure it is also not worn, frayed, and has no more than 3/4 inches of free play. On the driver's side of the engine compartment, we're going to start with our brake hoses coming from our foot valve, making sure that they're all properly mounted and secure. There are no indications of any leaks. We're going to check our oil dipstick, making sure that our oil is at the adequate level. We would also check here our air compressor, making sure that our air compressor is properly mounted and secured, no broken or missing parts, no leaks. Our air compressor is also gear driven. Under our air compressor, we have our power steering pump. We will make sure that our power steering pump is also properly mounted and secure with no broken or missing parts, and our power steering pump is also gear driven with no leaks. We would check our air intake hose on the driver's side, making sure it's properly mounted and secure, no broken or missing parts, clamps or tights, and no indications of any leaks. Also, we're going to be checking our coolant reservoir, making sure our coolant reservoir is properly mounted and secure, caps on tight, no leaks, filled to the adequate level. We also will be checking our power steering reservoir, making sure it's properly mounted and secure, no broken or missing parts, cap is on tight, filled to the adequate level, with no leaks along the hoses. At this time, we're going to move to our steering system. We're going to start out by checking our steering shaft and universal joint, making sure it's both properly mounted and secure with no broken or missing parts, properly lubricated. We're going to be checking our gearbox and hoses, making sure our gearbox is properly mounted and secure, no leaks in the gearbox or the hoses. Our pitman arm is properly mounted and secure. Our drag link is properly mounted and secure with no broken or missing parts, with the castle nut and cotter pin on each end of the drag link. Our steering knuckle and steering arms, making sure that they're both properly mounted and secure with no broken or missing parts. And our tie rod, making sure it's properly mounted and secure with no broken or missing parts. We would also check our frame to make sure that our frame is not cracked, has no illegal welds, is not bent in any location. We will now move to our suspension system. We're going to start with our front spring hanger, making sure it's properly mounted and secure with no broken or missing parts. Our leaf springs are properly mounted and secure. They're not cracked, shifted, or broken. Our U-bolts and nuts are properly mounted and secure. Nuts are on tight, not shifted, not cracked or broken. Our shock absorber and shock absorber mount, both properly mounted and secure, no broken or missing parts, no leaks along our shock. And our rear spring hanger and shackle, making sure both are properly mounted and secure with no broken or missing parts. We're now going to move to our brake system. We're going to start with our brake hose, making sure that our brake hose is properly mounted and secure, not kinked or worn, not restricting air in any way, and no leaks. Our brake chamber is properly mounted and secure with no broken or missing parts, also with no leaks. Our push rod and slack adjuster are properly mounted and secure with no broken or missing parts, and with the brakes released, there should be no more than 1 inch of free play. We then move to the inside where we have our brake shoes and brake drums. We want to make sure both our brake shoes and brake drums are properly mounted and secure. They are not cracked or broken. There are no welds or no excessive grease or oil. We also want to make sure that our brake pads are not worn dangerously thin and should have at least 1/4 inch of brake pad remaining. At this time, we're going to be moving to our front tire and wheel and rim assembly. We're going to start off with our tire. We're going to check the tread area of our tire, making sure we have even wear and we have at least 4 30-seconds of tread depth along each major groove. We're going to now be moving to the inner and outer wall section of our tires, making sure that we have no abrasions, bulges, or cuts anywhere along the sidewall. We're going to be checking our pressure, making sure our pressure is at the recommended manufacturer's setting, which is 110 pounds for this tire. We're now going to move to our rim area. We're going to check the inside and outside of our rim, making sure that there's no cracks, illegal welds, and no bends along the rim. We're going to be checking each lug nut to make sure our lug nuts are tight. There are no rust strakes or shiny threads that would indicate a loose lug nut. We're going to be checking our valve stem, making sure it's properly mounted and secure, not leak, and equipped with a cap. We're going to be checking our oil hub, making sure our oil hub is properly mounted and secure, no leaks, and filled to the adequate level. At this time, we're going to be moving along to the door area of our cab. First off, we're going to check our turn signal, making sure it's properly mounted and secure, clean, not cracked, amber in color. Our door mirrors are properly mounted and secure. The mirrors are not cracked, broken, or clean. We would also check our door handle to make sure it will properly open the door and it's properly mounted and secure. Our door, we would check our door hinges, making sure that they would support the weight of the door. Our door seal completely covers around the entire perimeter of our door. We would also make sure that our window is operable and would roll up and down. While we're here, we would go ahead and check part of our emergency equipment. We want to check our fire extinguisher, making sure our fire extinguisher is properly mounted and secure, fully charged, and properly rated. While we're checking emergency equipment, we will continue checking emergency equipment in our side box here, where we have our 3 reflective triangles, spare fuses, and bulbs. At this time, we're going to move to the fuel tank area. We're going to be checking our fuel tank, making sure it's properly mounted and secure. We're going to check our fuel tank straps to make sure that they're tight. There's no shiny tank to indicate movement. The rubber gasket is between the strap and the tank. We would also check our fuel cap, making sure it's properly mounted and secure with no leaks around the cap. We would also check the inside of the fuel cap, making sure it has a rubber seal and chain. We would also check under the bottom of the fuel tank to make sure there are no leaks. At this time, we're going to move to the back of the cab. First, we would check up top to make sure our reflective material is properly mounted and secure and in place. We then move to our air and electrical hoses. We're going to make sure our electrical hose is connected properly to the back of the cab. We're going to make sure our air hoses are both properly connected to the back of the cab. That both our air and electrical hoses run from the cab and are properly connected to the trailer. No leaks. We would also check inside each airline to make sure we have a rubber seal inside the glad hand. We would also check our airlines, make sure that they're not leaking anywhere between the tractor and the trailer, and that they're not resting upon the frame of the vehicle anywhere. At this time, we would check our steps leading to our catwalk to make sure that they're properly mounted and secure. They will support our weight. We're going to check our catwalk, making sure it's properly mounted and secure and free of any type of debris, including grease or oil. We're going to check our frame, making sure our frame once again has no cracks or illegal welds. We're going to check inside of our frame area, checking our drive shaft and universal joints, making sure that they're both properly mounted and secure, properly lubricated, and our torsion bar, making sure it's properly mounted and secure. We're checking our splash guard, making sure our splash guard is properly mounted and secure with no broken or missing parts. At this time, we're going to move to the suspension on the rear of the tractor. We're going to start with our front spring hanger, making sure it's properly mounted and secure with no broken or missing parts. Our leaf springs, properly mounted and secure, not cracked, shifted, or broken. Our U-bolts and nuts, properly mounted and secure with the nuts on tight. Our shock absorber and shock absorber mount, making sure that they're both properly mounted and secure, no broken or missing parts, and that the shock absorber is not leaking. We will also be checking our airbag and airbag mounts to making sure that they're both properly mounted and secure with no broken and missing parts, and that our airbag is fully inflated and not leaking. At this time, we would move to the brake system. We would check the brake system as we did on the front of the vehicle. We would start with our brake hose, properly mounted and secure, no broken or missing parts, not kinked, crimped, or no leaks. Our brake chamber, properly mounted and secure, with no broken or missing parts, not leaking. Our push rod and slack adjuster, both properly mounted and secure, no broken or missing parts, with 1 inch of free play with the brakes released. On the inside, we would check our brake shoes and brake drums, making sure that they're properly mounted and secure, not bent, cracked, or no illegal welds, no excessive grease or oil, and our brake pads must have at least 1/4 pad remaining. We would then move to our dual tires and rims. The first thing we would check is in between the dual tires to make sure that there's space in between the tires and they are evenly spaced and no debris lodged in between the tires. We would then move to our tread area, making sure once again that it's evenly worn. We have at least 2 30-seconds of tread depth along each major tread groove. We would also check the inner and outer sidewalls again to make sure we have no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. And we would check the pressure on these tires to make sure they're the manufacturer's recommended specifications, which is 95 pounds of pressure for this tire. At this time, we would move to our dual rims. We would check the inside and outside rim to make sure that we have no cracks, illegal welds, and the rim is not bent. We would check our lug nuts to make sure our lug nuts are tight and there are no rust streaks that would indicate a loose lug nut or shiny threads. We would check our valve stem, making sure it's properly mounted and secure, no leaks, with a cap on top. We would also check our axle seal, making sure all of our axle seal nuts and bolts were in place, tight, and no leaks. At this time, we're going to be moving to our fifth wheel and trailer apron area. First, we're going to check our trailer apron, making sure it's not cracked, bent, or broken. We're going to be checking our fifth wheel and skid plate, making sure both of those are properly mounted and secure with no broken or missing parts, and that our skid plate is properly lubricated. We're also going to check and make sure that there is no visible gap between the trailer apron and the skid plate. We're going to be checking our release handle and safety latch to make sure both of those are in the lock position. We're going to be checking our fifth wheel platform, making sure that our platform is properly mounted and secure with no broken or missing parts, has no broken or missing mounting bolts, and we're going to make sure our skid plate is properly located so that while making turns, the mud flaps of the tractor do not hit the landing gear of the trailer. At this time, we would check the rear of the fifth wheel, making sure that our locking jaws were locked around the shank of our kingpin. Also making sure that our kingpin is properly mounted and secure, not cracked or broken. At this time, we would be checking the rear tractor mud flap, making sure it's properly mounted and secure with no broken or missing parts. It is not touching the ground. Also contains the reflective material. We're going to be checking all of the lights on the rear of our tractor, which include our turn signals left and right, four-way flashers, our brake lights, tail lights, reverse light, making sure that they're both properly mounted and secure, clean, and red in color. At this time, we're going to move to the front of the trailer, or our header board. We're going to be checking the front of our trailer to make sure there is no visible damage along the header board of the trailer. We're going to check our clearance lights up top, making sure that they're properly mounted and secure, not cracked or broken, clean, amber in color. Our permit or registration box is properly mounted and secure. Our placards for hazardous materials are properly mounted and secure, and since we are not hauling hazardous materials, are in the neutral position. At this time, we're going to be moving along the entire side of our trailer. We're going to start with our clearance lights up top, reflectors at bottom, both properly mounted and secure, clear, amber in color. We're going to check our upper and lower frame rails to make sure that they both contain no cracks or broken at no place along the rails. We're going to check the entire side of the trailer, making sure that we see no visible damage along the entire side of the trailer. We're going to be checking our DOT reflective tape, making sure it covers at least 50% along the entire side of the trailer. Once again, we have hazardous materials placards, making sure that they are in the neutral position since we're not hauling hazardous materials, and we would check all remaining clearance and marker lights and reflectors along the side of the trailer at the rear to make sure that they're all properly mounted and secure. We would also check and make sure that our door tie is properly mounted and secure, and will support the weight of the door when open and attached to the door tie. At this time, we're going to be moving to our landing gear area and landing gear frame, sometimes referred to as the K-frame. We're going to start with our landing gear frame, making sure that it's properly mounted and secure, no broken or missing bolts, no cracks. We're going to move to our landing gear area, making sure that our landing gear rolls up and down, yet is in the fully raised position. Our landing gear foot plate is properly mounted and secure, and no debris that could fall off. Our landing gear handle is properly mounted and secure and in the stored position. We would also, under the bottom of the trailer, check all of our cross members, making sure that they're all properly mounted and secure, none broken, cracked, or missing. At this time, we're going to move to our trailer area. First off, we're going to be checking our air lines that lead to our braking system, making sure that they're properly mounted and secure, not kinked or twisted, no leaks, and at least 18 inches off the ground. We're going to be checking our trailer frame back here, making sure also that we see no cracks or illegal welds. We're going to be checking our trailer tandem locking pins, release handle, and safety pin, making sure that they are all in the lock position, which will not allow the tandems to slide. At this time, we're going to be moving to our suspension system. Once again, as we checked on the front of the vehicle, we're going to check our front spring hanger, making sure it's properly mounted and secure with no broken or missing parts. Our leaf springs, making sure that they're not cracked, shifted, or broken. On this vehicle, we have a torque arm, making sure our torque arm is properly mounted and secure with no broken or missing pieces. We're going to check our U-bolts and nuts, making sure that they're properly mounted and secure and tight. We would check our shock absorber and shock absorber mount, making sure it's properly mounted and secure with no leaks. And our airbag and airbag mounts, making sure that they're both properly mounted and secure, no broken or missing parts, and no leaks in the airbag. We would then move to our brake system. As we have the entire vehicle, we would start off with our brake hose, making sure it's properly mounted and secure with no leaks. Our brake chamber, properly mounted and secure with no broken or missing parts, no leaks. Our push rod and slack adjuster, properly mounted and secure, no broken or missing parts, with at least 1 inch of free play with the brakes released. And on the inside would be our brake shoes and brake drums, making sure both are properly mounted and secure, no cracks, illegal welds, excessive grease or oil, and the brake pad must have at least a 1/4 inch of pad remaining. At this time, we would move to our wheel and rim assembly area. First off, we would check our dual wheels in between our dual wheels, making sure that there is space in between the tires. They are evenly spaced with no debris lodged in between the two. We would check our tread area, making sure that our tread area is evenly worn and at least 2 30-seconds of tread depth remaining along all the major grooves. Our sidewalls, inner and outer sidewalls, making sure that we have no abrasions, bulges, or cuts anywhere along the sidewalls, And once again, our pressure, make sure our pressure is at the recommended manufacturer setting, which is 95 pounds of pressure for this tire. We would move to our rim assembly. We would also once again check the inside and outside rim, making sure that we have no cracks, illegal welds, or bends along the rim. Our lug nuts are all tight. There are no rust streaks or shiny threads that would indicate a loose lug nut. Our valve stem, properly mounted and secure, tight, no leaks, equipped with a cap. Our oil hub, making sure our oil hub is properly mounted and secure, no leaks, and filled to the adequate level. At this time, we're going to check the rear doors of the trailer. First, we would check all the door hinges, making sure that they're properly mounted and secure, not cracked or broken, with no broken or missing bolts. We would also open the trailer door to make sure that the hinges would support the weight of the door. We would check our door handles and latches, making sure that they're properly mounted and secure and will secure the door in the closed position. We would check our door ties, making sure that they're properly mounted and secure and will support the weight of the door when the door is open and attached to the tie on the side of the trailer. We would check our seal, which covers completely around the door, making sure that it is not broken or missing and is properly mounted and secure. We would check our DOT reflective tape across the rear of our trailer, making sure we have 100% coverage. We would then check all of our lights on the rear of the vehicle. We would check our tail lights, brake lights, left and right turn signal, four-way flashers, reflectors, and tag light, making sure that they're all properly mounted and secure, red in color, clean, the tag light, clear and clean. And last, we would check our rear mud flaps, making sure that our mud flaps are properly mounted and secure and at least 6 inches off the ground or not touching the ground when fully loaded. At this time, we're going to be performing an operational light check of the vehicle. We're going to check all the lights on the front of the vehicle that you would check as you are getting ready to leave on a trip. First off, we would check our clearance lights up top, making sure that they're all in operational order and condition. We would then check our headlights, our low beam and high beams. We would check our left turn signal, our right turn signal, and our four-way flashers. On the rear of the trailer, the lights we want to make sure are operable. We will start with our clearance lights and tail lights, making sure that they're properly mounted and secure. We would check our brake lights, making sure that they're both operable. We would check our left turn signal, our right turn signal, our four-way flashers, and our tag lights. For the inside portion of the pre-trip, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check our seat belt. We're going to make sure that our seat belt properly fastens, will restrain me, the driver, and is not worn or frayed. The next thing we will be checking is once again our side view mirrors, making sure that they are clean and they are properly adjusted for the driver. We would once again do a closer examination of the windshield, making sure that it's not broken, there's no cracks, chips, or illegal stickers. At this time, we're going to perform what is known as a safe start. We're going to make sure that the transmission is in neutral, we're going to depress the clutch, and we're going to start the vehicle. Upon starting the vehicle, we're going to make sure that our ABS light illuminates and then goes out to make sure our ABS system is working properly. We're also going to be checking our gauges. We're going to check our water temperature gauge, making sure that it is in the operating range. We're going to be checking our oil pressure gauge to make sure that we have oil pressure. We're going to be checking our voltmeter to make sure that we're operating at the proper voltage. We're going to be checking our primary and secondary air pressure gauges, making sure that the air compressor will build the air pressure up to the proper operating range. Once again, on the inside of the vehicle, we're going to be making sure our left turn indicator is working, our right turn indicator is working. We're going to be making sure that our four-way flasher indicators are working, and we're also going to be making sure our high beam and low beam indicator is working. We're also going to be making sure that both our horns are working, our city horn and our air horn. We're going to also make sure that our defroster is working and our heater is working. And we also want to make sure that our windshield washer and wipers are both in operable condition. At this time, we're now going to be performing our brake test. We're going to test the parking brakes of the vehicle to make sure they will hold the vehicle securely in the park position. First off, we're going to be checking our trailer brakes. We're going to release the tractor brakes, put the vehicle in gear, and ease off the clutch till we feel it tug. At this time, we're going to check our tractor parking brakes by releasing the trailer brakes, leaving the tractor parking brakes into park position, and once again perform a tug test. At this time, we're going to be performing a service brake test. We're going to release all of our parking brakes. We're going to move the vehicle forward about 5 feet and stop the vehicle to ensure the service brakes are working properly. Good. At this time, we're going to cut the vehicle off with the vehicle in gear and the parking brake released, because now we're getting ready to perform our lab test. Lab test stands for leaks, alarms, and budding. The first portion of the lab test is leaks. We're going to be applying brake pressure. We're going to be applying pressure to the brake pedal, making sure that we lose no more than 4 pounds of air pressure in a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We did not lose no more than 4 pounds. At this time, we're going to be testing the alarm. We're going to fan our brake pedal until the air pressure drops to 60 or below to ensure that either our audible or visual alarm activates. Our alarm has activated at 55 pounds. Now we're going to continue fanning our brakes and check our emergency braking system. Our emergency braking system should activate around 40 pounds of air pressure remaining in the tank. And that completes the pre-trip inspection. And that concludes the Class A pre-trip that you will be expected to perform when testing for your CDL. Thank you.